we will now move to... Thank you. We'll now move to...
Mr Mayor, sorry.
Yes, Councillor Pagan.
Thank you. In the same vein that Councillor Mepham has a insignificant conflict of interest, I have the same as a casual supplier of goods that may fall under the procurement policy, if so endorsed.
So you'd like
I
to...
intend to remain in the chamber and vote.
So you're acknowledging a potential...
in 8.1.
Conflict in 8.1
yep.
as well. Thank you. I think we've recorded that correctly. Okay, councillors, let's move to the 5 series, which the first one is item 5.1, which is the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 24th of April. Can I have a mover for those minutes? Thank you, Councillor McMichael, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Robinson. Councillor McMichael, anything you'd like to say? Councillor Robinson? Okay, all those in favour of accepting those minutes for the 24th of April? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. The next item is item 5.2, which is the minutes for the extraordinary council meeting on the 13th of May 2024. Do I have a mover? It looks like...
No, it's not me. I need to say something about it.
Thank you. Councillor Witters is moving. Councillor Robinson is seconding. Councillor Witters, anything you'd like to say?
I'll start the chat since I know Councillor O'Connor wants to say something. I actually have something to say as well, but I'll reserve my right to reply.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson? No. Councillor O'Connor?
Yeah, look, I've just got to raise 4 issues that have been brought to my attention by members of the community. In relation to the validity of that items that went through that meeting. Fortunately, none of them concern the primary purpose of that extraordinary meeting, which was to put council's proposed budget up for public exhibition. But in relation to items 11.1 and 12.1, there is a member of the public who's in the chamber now who sought to speak to this item but was in the have your say, but for various reasons, I think he was 5 minutes short of replying to a deadline imposed by council staff. He was told that he wasn't going to be able to speak to that item. So he spoke to me this morning. Now, his concern, well, there's 2 there that are quite vigorously pressed. One is that in relation to the Mayor's attendance, Councillor Copeland's attendance, the view is that there was no view of the Mayor's hand voting I think throughout that meeting. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that there were, in relation to item 12.1, which was the motion that was debated after the rescission motion, which was 11.1, that in relation to 12.1 there was an error on the face of the record, which is that it suggested in that report that the proposed bicycle track would commence at Armidale Railway Station. And in fact, I think that's not the proposal, according to the Public Works plan. It's some 500 metres or more. It's more like the, I can never remember the name of it, that first bridge, Martins Gully Bridge, sorry. So okay. That there's an error on the face of the record, which should be noted. I press my 3rd point, which is that I believe that the notice of motion moved by Councillor Dorothy Robinson is out of order. It certainly, my understanding is it was not submitted until Monday, and the Monday preceding that meeting, and I think pursuant to section 3.10, 3.10 of the Code of Meeting Practice, that should have been and was required to be submitted, I think it says by 5 p.m. 2 Fridays prior to that council meeting on the 13th. So I do press that. I realise I may not get support, and I did raise it at the time of the meeting, but I press that, and I will enter into correspondence about that as well. And the fourth point I want to make at this stage is that it's somewhat irregular that the acting chair, who was Councillor Redwood, there's nothing wrong with that, with him chairing the meeting, but in using his casting vote in relation to the rescission motion, as he did, it is against a convention. He was quite aware that the person who was absent, Councillor O'Brien, was absent because of health issues, and there are, well, there may well be some contention in relation to that, and it was you know, I've had this from the community. It's not just my view, but I do support it, that it's quite bad form, if you like, to impropriety to use a casting vote in the knowledge that the person who was absent and whose vote would make a difference was absent for health reasons, and possibly others as well. So I maintain, and I can assure you that this is not just coming from me, but many members of the community, a deep level of concern about the validity of the passing of 11.1 and 12.1. Thank you.
Councillor O'Connor, in terms of the Mayor's attendance and no view of the Mayor's hand, have you satisfied yourself whether that was the case or not? So you're just raising it. Who's got that on? Thank you.
No, to do that, I'd have to go look at the live screen. I can't remember whether I do remember you being invisible and me saying making,
Well, that's
or
somewhat of a superpower.
for a period. Hang on, and then I saw you pop up, and I thought, oh, good, he's in the screen, because my experience is that you must be visible in the screen. But I haven't checked the live screen. I just haven't had time since this morning. I had a big funeral to go to today, so I haven't checked to see whether that's the case. But I'm obliged, because Mr. McCann has approached me and he's in the room, but he's unable to speak because he was not, his application to speak on the Have Your Say on this item today was declined yesterday. So I'm obliged to raise it, and I do raise it.
Thank you. Well, frankly, I did raise my hand. I did raise my hand. I really think if you're going to raise it, no, Councillor.
It's not a question that I'm putting to you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just noting it for the public record.
I think if you're going to note these things, you really need to be across it. You need to be across it, and you need to satisfy yourself that that were the case. Otherwise, you're just throwing aspersions out there, and that's not acceptable. That is not the right.
To me, because I was the person that was reading the room and counting the votes, and I can tell you that I was completely satisfied with the votes that I was counting, including the hand of the Mayor. And you will note, and it's well recorded, and I'm sorry you've had a funeral and you haven't had time to look at the recording, but perhaps you should, that there was an occasion during that meeting where you were coercing Councillor Robinson in her vote, and I had to do a recount because I could not.
Councillor Redwood and Councillor O'Connor.
So I was unable to read the vote of Councillor Robinson, and I had to ask several times what her vote was.
Thank you.
Whether Councillor Robinson is effective in putting a hand up or not is really not my concern, and not a matter that I raised here. I raised another matter, and I've simply raised it. Because I need to preserve the position, and I won't be voting to support this, and I need to explain why I won't be. That's all.
Thank you. As the chair, I think we have to be clear if we're raising things that you have to be across it. You have to be clear. Councillor O'Connor, you've had plenty of opportunity to speak. You will get to vote. Now, on the other items there, I'm sure the record can be gone back and altered in terms of is it the Armidale Railway Station? Should it be the bridge? I don't know. You seem to be reserving your right as to whether the notice of motion was out of order per section 310. In terms of the acting chair and the casting vote, again, you're referring to convention more than anything, a perceived convention. Thank you. Thank you.
And
sorry, just before you do, Councillor Redwood, I'll probably acknowledge that you were responding to a statement there. So I will grant you leave just to have a very quick say on this, but then we...
Thanks, Mr Mayor. To the claim that my casting vote that I used on the item in that extraordinary meeting was unfair, I don't know exactly what your terminology used was, because Councillor O'Brien was on leave due to medical reasons is actually fundamentally not true. She wrote an email to all of us. I won't read it, but on the record, I've got the email in front of me here, and she said that she was unable to attend due to travelling and due to weather. So it's not due to medical reasons. So I think that's unfair to say. And she also said, just as a piece there, I don't think that my vote will make a difference.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Do any other
I think the
councillors?
record will
Councillor
show something different. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. No more interjecting, please.
Oh, if no one else
Sorry,
wants to speak,
I'll come to you
yeah.
in a moment. Councillors, does anyone else wish to say anything before we go to Councillor Withers as the mover?
I just might just add that and I'm very sorry that you had to go to a funeral day. I attend a funeral as well, but and I'm sure that there's many more hours in a day than that, but that's quite fine. Just for the record, I'd like people to go back through that meeting and have a look to see what behaviour did happen in regards to that voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gletley. Councillor Withers.
Thanks. It's good that other people have chatted about this. Some of what I might say, some might take umbrage to it, but I've tried to base it on the facts and the facts only. Just in regards to Councillor O'Connor's concerns, there's always the option to defer these until your concerns are addressed, whether that's just to go back and watch the YouTube video and they come back up to see. And it's the concern is valid if that was the case, that you have to be clearly seen with your hand up. Now, I do note that I noticed once that on the video that the mayor's right arm, I don't know whether you're voting with your right arm, but it wasn't on shot, so didn't take any much notice of that. So that can be going back, and as someone who was around when we first started doing video meetings, online meetings, I know that was one of the main things, is so if someone goes back and watch it, it's very clear on who votes on what. So there is the option for the deferral notice for clear indication. I want to say that I was discombobulated by the shenanigans of that meeting. Absolutely. The minutes from this meeting, that's what we're talking about, are backed up by the YouTube video of it. So it's a good thing now that council meetings are recorded. The years gone by, they weren't, so it was just my word versus your word basically on what happened if there was no one in the gallery. But now that they're recorded by YouTube, it actually makes people accountable for their actions and their words and what they've said. And I mentioned, again, being discombobulated. And I want to, these minutes reflect, these minutes are very revealing. They're very revealing because they show a few things. First off, it's from these minutes and from the YouTube thing, recordings. I mentioned in that YouTube recording, and it is on there, about the, I used a couple of words, but the bullying attempt that was made within the emails. I'm happy to go, if to use facts, happy to go into a committee of the whole and read those emails out if we need to, if time is an issue. It was a fourth grade attempt, really a fourth grade attempt to bully those who disagreed with the people who put in the rescission motion. They're now, to me, there's now a dark spectre on this council group. Those of us who voted originally for the first motion that was rescinded, we now have to put into our deliberations and our thoughts on whether, if we disagree with anything that the signatures to the rescission motion vote on, are we now going to be subjected to the same campaign that we were subjected to in the emails from that meeting? We need, besides deciding on the information that's given to us in the agenda and the attachments. We now have that hanging over the top of us. Because the rescission motion was put in alongside as part of that campaign. The facts are there. I actually found out about the rescission motion and from that by reading the email, so gathered that there was more agenda items than just the budget papers that were coming in. So it was the email chain, the timing of the rescission motion, the video, it all links together. It's not, I'm not making hearsay or my opinion. There's facts there that backs that up. I want to echo Councillor O'Connor's thoughts about the casting vote. Now, I know it's not in the Code of Meeting Practice, but the standard is that a casting vote keeps the status quo. It's not written down, but that's from my understanding for those in local government is usually that. To say that decision on a casting vote, it was not anywhere near in the vein of something like a Lloyd Piddington voting for the Malpas Dam using a casting vote. I think it's way up the other end of it.
Councillor Witters, you're hitting.
Yeah, give me 30 seconds, just because there was a bit of extra stuff that was said, so I just need 30 more seconds. 3 things that I mentioned at that meeting, and I'll take my extra time from that as well, please. Yes, they may not have been in the Code of Meeting Practice, but again, it gives quality reasoning for a thing. And I'll tell you what else isn't in the Code of Meeting Practice: having a sook because you lost a vote. Last bit is
Councillor Witters, that was
yep. Last bit is the last.
That was out of line.
10 seconds. Well, it's not. It's not because it mentions that, and the video backs up what I've just said. If you want to go back and watch the video, you can back that. That gets backed up.
Right. You've got 5 seconds.
And the last bit is the credibility of this council, and what gets said in here is now under question. From that, thank you.
Thank you. All right, councillors, let's put this to the vote.
Well, I move motion. I don't know if I'll get any support, but for this item,
Sorry, Councillor Robinson. Sorry, Councillor O'Connor. What are you saying?
I move that this item be deferred to next month's meeting, so that I have time to do what you chastised me for not doing today, which is check the live stream and other things.
So,
Well, that's fine.
Sorry,
We can
Councillor
pass it
O'Connor.
next month.
Thank you.
It's no big deal.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. We have a motion that was moved, seconded. That was the closing thing. There is no
Debate.
There's no debate. But thank you. I no
Sorry,
doubt the record you have heard. So, councillors, can we put this to the vote? All those in favour of accepting those minutes?
Excuse me, I put a motion and I expect it to be respected. I move to procedural motion, Mr Mayor, that this item be deferred to the June meeting.
Does anyone want to second that procedural motion? Thank you. All right, so that's on. All those in favour? Those against? So 2, 4, hang on. 6. So, and there were some abstentions. So there was 6 voted against it. Sorry, 2 voted for it. 3 abstained.
8.
8.
9. 2, 4, 9.
So I think we'll declare that one, that procedural motion was lost. Thank you. We will now pardon? Yeah, yes. Oh, sorry. And Councillor O'Brien abstained from that as well. Yep. You're good? Okay. All right, Council, we'll just go back to item 5.2. As it is, all those in favour of accepting those minutes? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Councillor Robinson, where are you? Councillor Gillespie, no more, please. Thank you. All right, I declare that carried. We have one loss. We have 1 against. We have 3 abstain, and we have 7 for. So I declare that motion carried. Will we sign up there? Thank you. All right, councillors. This brings us to item 7.1, the Council Actions Report, which summarises the actions taken on council resolutions for the period January 2022 to May 2024, where council is being asked to note the report. Details are from page 8 of the agenda and page 32 of the attachments. Can I have a mover for the recommendation on the screen? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gillespie. All right, anything to say, Councillor Redwood? Councillor Gillespie? Any other councillors wish to speak to that actions report? All right, with no discussion, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of accepting that? Thank you. Those against accepting the councillor actions report? Councillor O'Connor, where were you? Okay, so I declare that carried. 10-1 with 1 abstention. Councillor Gillespie, I will ask you to refrain from those actions, please. All right. Councillors, we now come to item 8.1, which is the procurement policy renewal. So this is a regular renewal, review and update of a key council policy. Details are page 9 of the agenda and 90 of the attachments. This is one where we have councillors Mepham and Packham both noted a potential conflict, but you'll be remaining in the room, but you won't be voting. That's correct? Sorry? And voting. Thank you. And Councillor Mepham will not be voting. Okay, thank you. There is a recommendation on the screen where council is being asked to receive the report and place it on public exhibition prior to endorsement. Do I have a mover? Thanks, Councillor McMichael. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor McMichael, anything you wish to say?
Look, it's good to have the procurement policy. It's great to see that the anti-slavery policy is involved in this. It's a much broader policy than it was. It's good to have it on public display for 28 days, and I urge people to look at it. It's a much broader policy.
Thank you. And Councillor O'Brien, anything?
Yes, just to congratulate the staff on putting together such a great policy, and it's good to see the social responsibility aspect added to it as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillors, anything anyone wishes to say? All right, Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, again, it's a great way that we've done this review. The sustainability component to this is to be congratulated. As I said 2 years ago when this policy came out, and as I'll say again now, I do have my reservations about some of the scoring matrices, which include scoring price on what would be an objective, subjective or conflated basis. And I hope that at some point or during this period of time, other people and maybe council would revisit that aspect before it's adopted in 28 days' time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour of adopting this policy? 1, 2, 3. Councillor O'Connor, are you in? I declare that carried 10 with 1 abstention. Thank you, councillors. Item 8.2 is the cash and investment report to 30th of April 2024, which provides an overview of our cash and investments and at the end of April, Council held $120 million in investments and $10.3 million in cash. Also shown is interest received of $444,000 for that period, and I tilt my hat to our CFO for what she's been able to achieve there. Details from the cash investment report drawn from page 16 of the agenda. So Council is being asked to note the report. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Witters. A seconder, thanks, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Witters, anything to say?
No, it's good to see that Chief Finance Officer Newsom has a finger on the pulse on this. It's a good report.
Very well done, Councillor. Councillor Gadders, anything to add? Okay, all right, councillors, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Still on finance, item 8.3 is the third quarter budget review, which represents a summary of Council's financial position for the year to date, 31 March 2024. So it's showing an improvement on the past quarter, and this has been a result of the aforementioned interest revenue. That's projected to be $3.2 million. It's offset, though, by a reduction in cattle sales income of $500,000, a reduction in Kempsey Road grant funding, but that'll be offset by a reduction in expenditure, and some additional water fund project being included. So details of all of this are from page 23 of the agenda and 157 of the attachments. So Council is being asked to note the report and resolve to adopt the amendments. So can I have a mover for this, please? Thank you, Councillor Robinson. And a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Witters. Councillor Robinson, anything to add?
Oh, I'd like to thank the Chief Financial Officer for her wonderful job in increasing our interest and investment income, even though there is a typo on that page. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Witters, anything? No. Okay, Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think it's actually brilliant that we've got the opportunity to have a lot more interest income, a lot more passive income. As always, my concern, though, is that just because that's come in doesn't mean we should just stretch what we're spending and not keep that fiscal responsibility going on, because if we had been in the interest rate regime of even up to 18 months ago, this actually would have been a more pressing circumstance in terms of creating deficits. So just want to be careful that we keep an eye on the fact it's a windfall, but it's not something that means that we should just go to the races, as it were.
Thank you. Fair point. We don't want to see our profits vaporised as a result. Thank you. Councillors, anyone else wish to speak? Right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour of accepting that? Thank you. Councillor Robinson, I'm assuming you're in. Okay, I'll declare that one carried unanimously. Nice to be back. All right, we now move to the 9 series, of which there's a fairly hefty swag of them. The first one is the draft active transport strategy at 9.1, which has been in development. It's a subject of some grant funding, which requires it to be finalised by the 31st of August. Details are on page 29 of the agenda and page 107 of the attachments. There's a recommendation on the screen with some steps to move things forward. So as a mover, I'll look to Councillor Robinson. Is there a second? Sure. So you'd like to move something slightly different to what's on the screen. That's what you're saying, Councillor Robinson? Mm-hmm. Team in tech. Councillor Robinson, can you confirm that's what you would like to move as the motion?
Yeah, that looks right.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder for what Councillor Robinson has put up? Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Councillors, just picking up on what Councillor Witters said back in 5.2, we need to be proud with our arms up. I need to see who's who. So, Councillor Robinson, would you like to speak to that, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, and I will say that if anybody wants to foreshadow an alternative motion if this is voted down, then they're very welcome to do so. But what I want to say is that I've really great sympathy with council staff when they run out of time for a project and we have to put it on public exhibition before it's really ready. The first item just says an extension of time would solve some of these problems, but it's still prudent to work to the existing deadline. And the best way to work to this existing deadline is to workshop as a matter of urgency the strategy before it goes on public exhibition. And this is what we saw recommended in 2 emails that were received today and yesterday by Tom Fisher, who's doing a PhD in transport planning, and local cyclist Dale Curtis, who told us that the consultants had promised to hold another workshop to discuss the proposals before it went on public exhibition. And we should ensure this promise is kept, noting that both Tom and Dale argue that we do need a workshop before it goes on public exhibition. And only last week, Council also passed a resolution to set up an active transport committee to discuss the draft before public exhibition. And given the deadlines, I realise that this probably isn't possible, but we desperately need a workshop so that the consultants can explain their proposals before we endorse it, because we really, really need to know what they have in mind. For example, with cycleways on Erskine and Markham Streets. Are they lanes on the side of the road? Are they proposing something else? What is being proposed? I don't know, and I really, really do want to know before it's put on public exhibition. And how does all this fit in with the on-street parking? Because I will remind people that the previous Armadale bicycle strategy in 2012 said width constraints and parking demand along numerous road lengths permit only discontinuous application of exclusive bicycle lanes or bicycle parking lanes. And if this turns out to be the case, that the old strategy was right and the new one is wrong, we might need to have a look at it and propose alternative routes. And presumably this can be sorted fairly quickly with a workshop with the consultants. But if we don't, then we'll probably find that it's going to be a more prolonged and difficult public exhibition process. So let's have this workshop as quickly as possible so we can develop a much better strategy and put it on public exhibition, and then it will have a much better chance of being adopted before the 31st of August, the deadline which we have to meet, and then we'll have a much better strategy for preparing future funding applications. So given all these advantages and desires, let's stick to our resolution of the 13th of May and what the consultants promised on the workshop in August last year. And let's hold a workshop so that we can iron out all these problems before it goes on public exhibition.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor McMichael, anything to add? Councillor Gillespie.
Just a little bit of the way that I see this is that I won't be supporting this. We've got the officer that has actually done this report, I believe, has done a good job with it. Why do we have to have Councillor Robinson on nearly everything that comes up in regards to this? She has to put her bit into it. We have workshops, and it gets more confusing the more that some of these councils put in here. Let's adopt that our reporting officer or the officers put up here, and it's a live document. We can work on it from there. But why do we have to complicate things for staff so much? This is why this town sits where it is. No one seems to be able to work with the staff, or very few of these councillors seem to be able to work with the staff or trust the staff. So I will be voting against this amendment. I think it's something that is not needed, and this is a live document that we can be still working on. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Gillespie, just for clarity, this isn't an amendment, this is actually the substantive motion. Sorry, Councillor Gaddis, if you can just...
I get that,
Yeah.
but I won't be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gaddis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just ask a few questions of Councillor Robinson. I'm just a little I see what's on the board. I'm just trying to get my head around the sequence of events you're suggesting here. So are we going, maybe a series of questions. So are we suggesting, based on the vote today, it does go out on public exhibition, and during that time it's on exhibition, we have a workshop with the users and also a workshop with the councillors, and then it comes back in, we receive a further report, and then what happens? The document gets written. Sorry, is that the sequence? I'm a bit confused on the sequence. It seems to move around a bit for me.
Well, my sequence of events would be to have a workshop as soon as possible. And if everything can be resolved at that workshop and everybody is happy with it, we could even put it on public exhibition before the next council meeting. But or it will be the decision of the council staff and the workshops to whether it has to go to another council meeting or not. If we had all the time in the world, then I would certainly suggest that we try and get it to the June council meeting. But I'm just a bit worried, and I'd be very happy for it to go to the June council meeting, but I'm just a bit worried then we might run out of time unless we get an extension. Because if it goes out in June council meeting, then we don't have an August council meeting, so when does it get approved?
Sorry, back to me,
Keep
Mr.
going,
Mayor.
keep
Sorry,
going.
thank you, Councillor Robinson. I'm still not completely clear, but I think I'm getting the gist of it. I guess from my point of view, folks, let's not delay in terms of getting it out on public exhibition. If there needs to be other workshops, happy days, I think that would be good. I know upon reading the attachments behind this myself in the transport strategy that I was more than impressed with what GHD had actually suggested. There was well over 100 sort of, and they used a word which I can't think at the moment, but basically 100 areas of concern that needed to be addressed. And then they actually also went through a level of high, medium and low prioritisation. And they had put some costing against that. So I was feeling that the job they'd done was quite good, but certainly happy to have more workshops, but not happy to have additional steps in the sequence to delay things. Does that make sense? Let's get it on exhibition first.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor O'Connor.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask, do we have 20 years of data on safety and near misses and whatever the items referred to in C of the proposed amendment?
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
We have data for 30, 40 years. It's not necessarily that we need to look at all the data, but the data is there, and I have most of it, because I've been looking at cycle injuries and cycle accidents in this region for umpteen years, and I've come up with some very, very interesting insights, which is why I really believe, having looked at the data, having analysed the data, having published peer-reviewed articles on data for cyclist injuries in Armadale and the whole of New South Wales, that you cannot do statistics on 5 or 6 injuries. You really do need to have at least 2 injuries at the same location. And that is where we need more than 5 years of data. And in fact, even when the submission from CycleSafe was put into the active transport strategy, it got at least 6 years of data rather than 5. So we did better than the consultants.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Witters.
Well, look, just looking at what I say number B, letter B, and knowing what's coming up later, the word key stakeholders will be used. And how the the East Mall thing, and how the key stakeholders' opinions were sourced extensively in that. Would the question to the mover, Councillor Robinson, would you consider what you've written there, active transport users, key stakeholders in regards to the active transport strategy?
Yes, indeed.
So, from what I can read, you're proposing is that, and from the couple of emails that we received, that GHD spend a bit more time with the key stakeholders in regards to the active transport strategy before it goes out on public exhibition. Is that right?
Yes.
Sounds a reasonable request to me.
Thank you. Are there any councillors, any other questions? Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask in terms of the original motion, and it says a workshop and community members. So while it's on exhibition, we're able to continue, doing a workshop and reaching out to other members of the community that haven't yet been. Is that what we can do? Is that what we intend to do?
I'd be guided by Chief Officer Boyce.
Yeah.
That would be my expectation, and maybe with the hard deadlines that we have around this, we could be running an exhibition and workshops concurrently. But anyway,
And that doesn't present a problem, does it, Mr. Boyce? Oh,
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor. No, that's the intention, that the workshops and the exhibition would run in parallel. So we can do that, or we can do them in sequence. It's entirely up to council.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Redwood.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Given that this is now the substantive motion and the feedback that was given to Councillor Robinson beforehand about the thoughts on it, the likelihood of this moving forward with a vote could be quite low. And inviting a foreshadowed motion when Councillor Robin was speaking, maybe it was sensible for someone to put something forward.
Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Anyone can foreshadow a motion. It doesn't have to happen at the start. So if you wish to foreshadow a motion, that might be a reasonable backstop. As I said, just pondering out
Let's say that I foreshadow a motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Any other councillors before I come back to you, Councillor Robinson, for a right of reply? So you have spoken. Oh no, you asked some questions, Councillor Gadders.
Sorry if I can continue to ask another question. And this is all through you, Mr. Mayor. If I could ask Mr. Boyce a question. It looks like we had, as I said, a public workshop in place and doing this concurrently with the document being on public exhibition. Is there any additional cost incurred if we do this the other way around? I mean, are we bringing consultants back and blowing the budget in this particular thing by having additional workshops here? And I'm not trying to shoot it down. I'm just trying to understand the implications of what's on the board in front of us.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor. I think we've budgeted for one workshop, so as long as there's no additional workshops, I think we'll still be within the funding envelope. It'll just be a timing thing. I think July would be the last opportunity for council to adopt the strategy.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or for councillors that haven't spoken? For Councillor Robinson, do you want to write a reply and even maybe consider
Yeah, the
tweak?
two things, first of all, is that the consultants did promise at the previous workshop that there would be a workshop before it went on public exhibition. We've got several witnesses to that. And we also had this idea also at the 13th of May meeting as well. But the main reason why I would like to see the workshop first is in case some of these routes that the consultants have proposed are not feasible. And if they are not feasible, and based on the previous council strategy, they do not appear to be feasible. And certainly, I mean, I don't like putting out stuff on public exhibition that I don't understand. If I don't understand it as a cyclist, how many other people in this room are likely to understand it? So I think we should probably get something that people do understand to put on public exhibition, and ensure that we dot all our I's and cross our T's as quickly as possible. And maybe the only way we can do that is, rather than having consultants come up here, which is expensive, maybe we should have an online workshop with the consultants. Maybe we should challenge them as to how they plan to fit their proposals into the existing roadway. And once we know that, we'll have a much better document to put on public exhibition, and it will be a lot quicker and easier to get it adopted. And once we've got it adopted, we can start putting in our funding applications. And that's where we all really want to end up, with a strategy that's workable and funded.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Well, having exhausted that conversation with the understanding there's a foreshadowed motion, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour of what's on the screen? Thank you. 5. I declare that lost. So, Councillor Redwood, do you have a 4 that's lost? 5, 6. Councillor Robinson, sorry, Redwood, do you have your foreshadowed motion?
Foreshadowed motion is that we return to the recommendation of the officer.
Thank you. And that includes workshops with the community and the...
In parallel.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right.
That.
Sorry, Councillor O'Connor didn't vote for that.
For the amendment, no.
Can I just see who was for it? Oh, sorry, it was thank you. It was McMichael, Councillor McMichael, rather than Councillor O'Connor. Yes, please. Everyone proud who was voting for that. That was Councillors Witters, McMichael, Packham, Robinson and Mepham. Thank you.
Shame, isn't it?
There's the others and the... So that motion was lost, and we now have Councillor Redwood's foreshadowed motion, which was the original, which is the recommendation on the screen. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Packham. Councillor Redwood, anything to say?
Well, I think it's all been said, but thoroughly endorse the recommendation that we've got in front of us. But I do support that parallel community consultation. The workshops with the community
Public exhibition. Thank you. Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I certainly understand the reasons why the original motion was put, and I also appreciate what Councillor Gaddies had said about the great work that's already been done. All I'm just happy is that we'll move forward, maybe not as Councillor Robinson wanted, but we should move it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Packham. Councillor McMichael.
I hope that everyone will take note of the time and and put submissions in and put suggestions in, and when they can attend the workshops.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, also, again, congratulations. A lot of work done with the looming deadline, and really appreciate that. I'm particularly appreciative about the focus on promoting social equity for those who don't have access to a car, and also people with disabilities, access and connectivity in the Armidale City, those with a disability. I think there's meant to be a comma after that, at work poor or not present. And I do hope in that time that it's on exhibition that we find really active ways to reach out to those people who were not able to put in their contribution, because those people will have a very different experience of Armidale, and very, very important that we get their feedback. And if we can actively, maybe councillors, if we can assist in any way with the people that we represent and the demographics that we are in touch with, in getting some more feedback for those people, that would be great. Thank you.
Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Witters.
Really well said, Councillor O'Brien. I concur with everything you say there. My concern again comes back to my comments in 5.2 with that amended motion being voted down, that dark spectre that I spoke of being over the council, and this having active transport and cycling being part of active transport, whether our enthusiastic community citizens from last month decide to now, with a 5-6 vote, again harangue certain councillors because they didn't vote in a certain way.
Councillor Witters, you really need to stop
Pull your head.
that insightful language. It's not helpful for anyone. If you can, Councillor Witters, please don't do that again. Poor form. No. Thank you. Councillor Gadders.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Going back to the item at hand, the motion that's on the table in front of us for vote, I think it achieves what we've actually, I think we're actually all on the same page. It achieves what we're actually trying to do for the community. It's involving not only the councillors, it's involving the active users in the community to get their input. We're doing it while it's on public exhibition. We're doing it in a time frame that means that we can get ahead and get the job done in accordance with that deadline. I mean, personally, I think we're all saying the same thing, and I'd like to support we move this forward.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I do hope we can get on with the process and get these workshops rather than waiting and we've said it's going to be in parallel. So let's try and get these workshops done maybe next week or the week after. Let's see what we can do to solve these problems, because there are major problems with this work, and the sooner we can get them, then get up, and then we can possibly do something to make sure that people know what they're looking at.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, I'll go back to Councillor Redwood as the mover for a comment.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and I support what Councillor Robinson is saying, and I think it would be unfortunate if what Councillor Witters was forecasting would happen. I think that this council is nimble enough to walk and chew gum at the same time, and I believe that we can firmly believe that we can do workshops while the exhibition is in play. So I say let's crack on and get on with it.
Thank you. All right, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously.
I've got a point of order, Mr Mayor.
Pardon?
I have a point of order.
Yes.
We should discuss. I appreciate that we were talking about a point of order between yourselves and Councillor Witters, but during that exchange, Councillor Gillespie called Councillor Witters a quite disturbing word in this chamber, and under 1511D of the Code of Meeting Practice, it's under disparaging comments. It's just not appropriate. I will not repeat the word in this chamber unless it's in confidential.
Thank you. So 1511D is insults or personal reflections or imputes improper motives to another councillor. So Councillor Gillespie, if that occurred, please apologise. Please, let's not have this again. If I didn't hear it, but if you did, that'd be...
I apologise for calling him an arsehole. Sorry.
Councillor Gillespie, please no more of that, but thank you. Councillors, can I just take a brief pause? This chamber has become quite heated from the 24th of April. It would be great, this is good form. I don't know what particular motion it goes to, but we cannot be disparaging each other. We cannot be disparaging the community. And it's the community more than anything. So please, can I ask everybody to act decently and in a sensible manner? Councillor O'Connor.
Oh, thanks, Mr Mayor, but I think that the point of order related to one councillor and not all of us, and we're not children. And some of us make a great effort to not do not breach the code of conduct. So
thank you, Councillor O'Connor. I take your point. My comment was directed at everybody and a general vibe or a pulse in this chamber. And I know we can all be better. So if we could take a breath and crack on and do the job that we're elected to do, that would be a great thing. I don't think it's too much to ask. Let's get back to the matter at hand. item 9.2, which is Project 030. So this is a report from the board of Project 030 to present to council, suggested commitments for council abatement measures. So details are on page 34 of the agenda, and I'll look for a mover, which will be Councillor Redwood, and a seconder. Okay, thanks, Councillor Witters. Councillor Redwood, do you wish to speak to this at all?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. There was one small amendment to the recommendation on the screen to A. If we could just have that brought up, please. So it was to I guess, give a little bit more broader play to be able to find energy efficiency within the region, rather than limiting it to solar panel installation to 90% of rooftop solar by 2030. So that was the...
Okay, so because we, and as you know, I'm a stickler for the rules, because we already have an amendment, sorry, we already have a motion on foot, this is an amendment to it. If the seconder is happy to accept that, then it can become the substantive motion. Councillor Witters?
It's A plus everything that was up there.
So, yes, the highlighted A replaces the original A. Yeah. Thank you. All right, that's now our substantive motion. Thank you. Councillor Redwood, do you want to, having set that up, wish to speak to it at all?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So this Project 030 was a commitment that Armidale Regional Council entered into about 6 years ago in partnership with other entities, including the University of New England and at the time Business New England, Lands Council and a couple of other entities. And the ambition there was for the region as a precinct to be 030 or net zero by 2030. So unfortunately, the baseline account for greenhouse gas emissions wasn't delivered until last year, and up until this point, there's been very little meaningful action taken towards net zero for our region by 2030. The recommendations that we have here are a stepping stone towards net zero. They're not going to achieve net zero in their own right, so there have to be some extensions to that, but they are a stepping stone forward. Given that we have been somewhat light on activity in the last 6 years, it seems that we should accelerate some of that. So while our LSPS that we've had out on exhibition and we've endorsed did say that there would be about 10%, or sorry, a commitment of 10% of developer contributions towards tree planting activities. The request here or suggestion here is to double that commitment to make that 20% of developer contributions, which comes in at the $120,000 per annum. So that's a suggestion. Also, some other commitments towards EV vehicle or electric vehicle charging stations. Our landfill, which is, at the moment emits about 3% of our greenhouse gas emissions in the region, to make that carbon neutral, and of course some other energy efficient activities. So I think on behalf of our community, particularly the community members who aren't necessarily able to financially be able to make that change themselves, this was the suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Witters.
Yeah, as someone whose day job is carbon abatement, have a couple of questions here to begin with. Just, this might come to you, Chief Officer Boyce. Question, letter D, the planting of 250,000 trees. Has there been consideration, and I do apologise, as I mentioned on Monday, my attachments I didn't load, so if this is in the attachments, I do apologise. Has there been consideration of using the Clean Energy Regulators ACCU scheme in the tree plantings to possibly procure ACCUs with our tree plantings and using carbon abatements from that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, you'll have to explain the acronyms that you're using there, Councillor Witters. Thank you.
Clean Energy Regulators, the CER, ACCUs are Australian Carbon Credit Units. So for each tonne of CO2 sequestered, you get one ACCU. ACCU prices range from $15 to, I think, a pretty good one out on the eastern side of our boundaries out there. Gets a good price out of that. So the ones I'm working with at the moment are up to about $35. So it depends on all that sort of stuff. But there's certain things within the Clean Energy Regulators guidelines that if you do plantings for carbon abatement, you can actually make money. So it's a good chance for council to, if they're planting 250,000 trees in the right areas, in the right type of trees, to actually not actually need to fund it after 5 years. It'll fund itself and then pay for itself if it's looked into.
Sorry.
Who are we on?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor. I think that opportunity will present itself if we're ever approaching climate positive territory. What we'll be obviously seeking to do is to offset our own emissions initially, but certainly happy to talk to you offline and run it by the postdoctoral fellow that's doing the calculations for us.
Yeah, I think I sent both you and Mr Schaefer the Sustainable Council's contact. We'll have a chat about it later. But anything to do with having been in 2 meetings of today, anything to do with this sort of stuff, I'm a big fan of. I think this is the way to go. Some of the areas, one comment I heard today from one of the meetings that I was on, actually came from The Simpsons, where Bart says to Homer that 2023 was the hottest year of his life, and Homer comes back and says, well, it could also be the coldest. And that's where we're sort of things we're looking at. And I think anything that we can do to help with that, I like knowing that there's more electric vehicles being developed and also hybrid vehicles. The charging stations, I think, extra charging stations is a good idea. Having the landfill as carbon neutral within, I think that's a good target too, within 7 years, 6 or 7 years, I think it's achievable. So I really like that. And as someone that supported the Project 030 5 or 6 years ago, it's good to see that there's a bit of movement and motion and all that sort of going on. And I think this council really needs to, a group of councillors as well, really needs to get behind this and show good quality leadership in regards to this sort of stuff.
Yeah, Councillor Redwood, did you want to answer a question?
If I could answer a question of Councillor Witters, I know it was directed to Chief Officer Boyce, but as author of the report, I thought I could also add to what Chief Officer Boyce has said. So, yeah, the point here, and not to correct Chief Officer Boyce, but we are not attempting to offset here, we're trying to abate. And the point here of the activities that we're looking at initially is not to sell anything, not to export any of our carbon credits, but in fact to bank them within our own LGA, because at the moment our baseline account for greenhouse gas emissions suggests that 70% of our emissions comes from agriculture. Around 20% of the emission comes from energy, 16% coming from transport, 3% from waste and 1% from industry. What we need to do is find ways that we can abate some of those activities that have little ability, and at the moment agriculture has little ability to be able to abate itself, just because of the nature of it. Now there may be, we know that there's a lot of science behind agriculture at the moment in activities through feed and breed of animals, to be able to reduce the emission from animals. And we also know that there are some challenges to what was known as the baseline of what those animals are emitting in methane. So there are some questions globally about that. But at the moment, we're not looking at a carbon. We're not looking at a offset. We're looking at abatement. Offsetting is where you're actually purchasing or selling the carbon to someone else, or you're buying an offset from someone else. So at the moment, we're not looking at that. We're looking at the abatement measures where we're capturing that carbon within our LGA, and hence why these trees. So at the moment, I don't know that we are eligible for those schemes where there's the money changing hands to go outside of the region, but we may find that some of the activities of tree planting may become beneficial to others who are seeking to purchase biodiversity offsets, which would then be in our region because the trees planted in our region. So,
Thank you. So just before we go, Councillor O'Connor has a thing. Are you asking more questions or? Okay.
So my understanding is you can still, just with the program I'm developing, work, we're doing carbon abatement. And within that carbon abatement, the organisations are able to accrue ACCUs. So they're able to accrue credit, Australian carbon credit units, which is what all that's done under now. So just looking, if we do meet, with our plantings, do meet the Clean Energy Regulators guidelines, there's no harm in looking at that to make money for the council in regards to doing those sorts of things. That's all I'm looking at, is how do we make money for the council, and if we can, that sort of stuff.
Okay. Thank you. I guess that's probably, for down the track, but Councillor O'Connor.
I just had a question and a suggestion. The first one is in relation to paragraph A. I presume that's talking generally. That doesn't just relate to the business of council. Is that correct, Councillor Redwood?
yeah, thanks, Councillor O'Connor. That's correct. That's for the region. So that's not the activities of council. That is our LGA and those living within it.
And thank you very much, and thanks for your explanation of what's been going on over there, the hill at Carbon Project 030. I don't know whether this would, I'm just wondering, we have had discussions about fast charges in paragraph C, commit to delivering 12 fast electric vehicle EVs. Is that worth putting in? I suppose that's a question to Mr. Chief Officer Boyce.
Through Mr. Mayor, Councillor, if you'd like to specify the type of charging stations, I don't see any issue with that. But I guess just so the resolution doesn't date, because they're coming out with new terms all the time, super fast, etc. You may want to leave it open.
Could I add?
I wanted to assist your negotiations to make sure that, council says, something that doesn't, that assists you to let developers know that this council wants fast, top of the range. Or can I just say top of the range or fast as possible? Will that help? Okay, it sounds really daggy, but commit to developing, this is a proposed amendment, fast as possible electric vehicle charging stations.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Yeah. So, Councillor Redwood, it is your motion. Would you happily insert that, or do you want to answer?
Well, I'm happy to entertain rewording, and to your point, Councillor O'Connor, and also to Chief Officer Boyce's point. If you have a look in the table in there, the costs of those are indicative of what we would now call fast. But to Chief Officer Boyce's point, in 5 years' time, fast might not be fast anymore, and it might be called something, super or something like that. But if there was something to say, state of the art or something. But again, contemporary. We do have contemporary slow charges at the moment, and they are still valid. they're still installed. But I think Councillor O'Connor's point is a very good one, that we want ones that are going to work well and fast.
Okay, so,
Brawls down the track, people waiting.
okay, so Councillor O'Connor, there's a suggestion hanging, so it either can be picked up just it can be noted just in the meeting, or it can be incorporated in the motion, and that's.
Well, I think it's up to the mover and the
Yeah.
seconder.
It's up to.
As I said, I'm open to an amendment in the vein or in the spirit of what you're trying to say. I'm just not sure about the exact wording that we arrive at, that we may not hamstring ourselves in the wording itself.
If I could make a suggestion, it might be good just to do it now so we can progress on with, and whether it is state-of-the-art or contemporary. It's really to give Chief Officer Boyce and his team.
Fast as possible.
Great. Councillor Witt as the seconder, you're happy with that? All right, that is now such an expedient way to do this. Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Well, I would like to say that it should be 12 fast as possible electric vehicle charging stations, or at least I assume that's what is meant, that it's the speed of the charging that's correct, that's
Yep.
the issue, not the timing of the delivery.
I'm sure Chief Officer Boyce will be well aware of what the intention is.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't say that at the moment. Yeah. However, I just wanted to add my endorsement to this great initiative to reduce our contribution to global warming compared to business as usual, and also try and access the rebates that are available everywhere else in New South Wales. And I just thought it's worth very, very quickly talking about my experience where I tried to get a new energy efficient appliance. And there were 8 accredited suppliers on the New South Wales Government website. I phoned every single one of them, and none of them could help. But then I did find one of them referred me to another avenue, which actually worked. But the only thing was the installers came up from Victoria. And what we really do need to do is have local installers to get the energy efficient appliances in this area and get the subsidies available without having to phone up 8 accredited suppliers and having to have somebody come in from Victoria. That will certainly make a big difference to this region, and that's why we should be doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Packham.
Thank you. I agree with sort of the wordsmithing in this place to avoid expediency versus the outcome of the item we're trying to procure. But that's not generally my question. My first question to Chief Officer Boyce through the General Manager is the point of letter C in terms of via planning agreements for state. Now, we obviously have the Energy Community Benefit Framework, but now we're being very descriptive or prescriptive in that. And so you're saying, we've got this framework come out where we're charging per megawatt of production, and now we're saying, but we also want to ask you to contribute to this, or, is it, it's roundabout. And my second question through the General Manager to Chief Officer Boyce relates to letter D, and whether just for the record you could clarify what section 712 contributions are, what that source is, because it's a bit innocuous as written. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor. So in answer to your first question, it'll all come down to the negotiation. But the idea at point C is that we will be delivering these EV charging stations at no cost to council. So via our negotiations, VPA negotiations with the state significant solar farms, wind farms, batteries, etc. I imagine that the proponent will seek to have that commitment under the funding envelope that they're offering. But really it's going to come down to the negotiation. What we've seen with Oxley Solar Farm is that they've been put in as additional contributions. Whether that continues to be the case, we don't know, but that's the idea. In terms of the section 712 contributions, that's your standard developer contributions, the 1% levy that you collect or the council collects with development applications. council collects somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 per year in developer contributions. So the $120,000 commitment is around about 20% of what you're collecting or what council is collecting annually.
Thank you,
again.
Chief Officer Boyce. Council. Yep, you're still going. You were asked a question.
Reply or to get a point of clarification again on letter C. So you've just said that that's within technically the funding agreement. So it might be that they'll say prescriptively or descriptively commit to EV, but to the total value of X, Y, Z. Obviously, we have put on display the Future Fund. And so I'm trying not to limit our choices of where we're going to take funding for these types of activities. So if we keep an open mind to that, would be great.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, if there's no further discussion, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Which brings us to item 9.3, which is consistent following on from the discussions and the questions then from Councillor Packham. This is the planning agreement for Oxley Solar Farm. So it's seeking council's approval to finalise the planning agreement. It should be noted that this agreement was the first renewable energy planning agreement struck in this term of council, and it set the bar for renewable energy planning agreements throughout New South Wales, and it also influences other states. This is what has really shifted the dial here. The details around this planning agreement are on page 39 of the agenda and 330 of the attachments. So can I have a mover, Councillor Gadders? A second can be Councillor Galletley. Councillor Gadders.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very good segue and intro for the item. Thank you. This is a very important planning agreement for us. So I'd like to start by saying well done to the council staff who have been involved in bringing this planning agreement together and getting it on the table. I know there's been a lot of work in the background. So the Oxley Solar Farm project is to be commended. It's not just with a view of producing with solar panels, but they've also got the inclusion of battery storage here, which is obviously a more advanced way of moving on the peaks and the valleys of production. This planning agreement represents a well-rounded view by the proponent to give back to the local community with both lump sum and annual contributions. So it enables ARC, our regional council, to maximise the benefits to the communities, just not only for the current generation, but for generations to come. This planning agreement alone represents over about $6 million in contributions over the productive lifetime of the project. So with most of those contributions going into the Future Fund, this will absolutely ensure good governance, growth and allocation of the funds back to the community in the years ahead. So I fully support the agreement, and again, thank you very much for the hard work in getting this one on the table.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Galletley.
Just to get a few things here, just with a little bit of history of this. This was one of the first plans that came in under RES. The application was put in, and it was put under RES. Unlike the Uralla Solar Farm, the big one down there, we were very lucky to have Chief Officer Boyce here to do this, because Uralla didn't get 2 cents out of that big solar farm that they've got down there. They seem to miss the boat with that. But so Chief Officer Boyce, he's the one that really came in and put the pen to paper. And as our mayor said, basically the government has taken his plans in, and it's pretty well being used all over the country now. So I applaud that. This one out at Gowra Station, when it first put its head up, it was a lot bigger than this. When the Sears went through, and there was a lot of complaints about it. So and then the last application, which is the environment one, it got knocked back by it had about 7 different things wrong with it. So it went back to them, and they've made it a lot smaller. They've actually listened to all parties involved that were against this. Probably still not everyone's 100% behind it, but the majority of the residents out there have come through and acknowledged that this is going to be there. It has been a long time in the planning. It's been probably it's been the whole time that we've been on had our term here. But once again, if I believe if it wasn't for our chief officer, we wouldn't have this, and I think we're very lucky that we were virtually pioneers in getting this agreement with the government going, because that's pretty well the standard agreement now. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Galetly. Councillor Redwood.
Here to Councillor Galetly's words. Armidale region and the entire New England, in fact, didn't have a choice in receiving this renewable energy zone. It's great that this council's had its finger on the pulse, and it's a very positive way for our community to receive a dividend from the power which is going to light up the homes of Sydney, because in fact there's very little upside for our region. So the negotiations that have been forthcoming and the way that this has landed is very, very good for us. So yeah, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Councillor O'Connor.
Look, I just had to put in a correction from something that was said by Councillor Galetly. I don't believe it's fair or true to say that the solar farm that's currently delivering regular community benefits in the form of community grants to Inurallo is not 2 cents worth. It's just not correct to say that the community benefits, or that there are no community benefits being delivered at the Uralla Solar Farm. That's not the case. In fact, there's a consistent ongoing process. It's an approach that our council, and I endorse this approach, has chosen not to take, but it's not true or fair or proper for us to not correct statements like they don't get 2 cents, because they do. They regularly distribute substantial grants to community organisations.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Galetly, I suggest...
Can I please just reply? This will be civil.
Thank you. What's your point of order? Sorry.
Not from me. He's not the mover of the motion, and so doesn't have, although I can find the number for you, but the mover of the motion has right of reply. No one else has right of reply. I don't think Councillor O'Connor made a comment where Councillor Galetly has right to reply to that. So I don't, under the Code of Meeting Practice, as not being the mover of the motion, he doesn't have a right of reply. And the comments made by Councillor O'Connor don't justify a response.
So can you point to a number in the Code of Meeting Practice? That'd be great. In the interim, Councillor Galetly, we'll just let...
In actual fact, all I was pointing out is that they didn't negotiate with the proponent there, the council themselves, because the res wasn't in place when that came through.
Thank you.
So they did not get anything out of it until after the res had been put in, and then they put their applications in for things. So just to clarify, I have got my facts straight, and I don't like being talked to the way that Margaret said that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Pardon? Sorry.
We're live streamed and we can't say disparaging things about our neighbouring councils. Full stop.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, everything's been said, but I just wanted to add my congratulations to this agreement and look forward to a few more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillors, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of accepting what is a very good deal for our council? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 9.4. This relates to the lease to Optus Fixed Infrastructure. So it's seeking the report is seeking council endorsement to enter into a lease with Optus Infrastructure for part of the land situated at 450 Grafton Road. Details are page 42 of the agenda, 367 of the attachments. So there is a recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor McMichael. The seconder is Councillor Redwood. Councillor McMichael, anything to say?
This lease will last for 20 years and it'll be great for internet for the region. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood, nothing? Any other councillors? All right, let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 9.5. It seems to be Renewable Energy Day today. Councillors, this is the updated Renewable Energy Community Benefit Sharing Framework, which is up for adoption. This framework has been out on public exhibition. It's version 2.0, where we change from a percentage of build cost to dollars per megawatt of generation, which is consistent with the draft renewable energy guidelines put out by the Department of Planning. I note that those draft guidelines will be finalised shortly-ish, and if there's a change there, I'm probably flagging that we might need to make yet another change. This updated framework has received one submission whilst on public exhibition. The recommendation is that Council notes the submission, adopts the framework and schedules a review within 1 year. Can I have a mover for this, please? Thanks, Councillor Robinson, and Councillor Redwood is the seconder. Councillor Robinson, do you wish to say anything?
No, it's a good agreement and it's good that we're having a review in a year's time. So let's get on with it. The more benefit sharing we have for this community, the more this community will be in favour of renewable energy.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, to your point that you made in introducing the item, this is just an evolution of what was already a good idea, and it's just making a good idea even better and more relevant given the information that's come to hand. So fully support, and let's get on with it.
Terrific. Thank you. Councillors, anyone else wish to say anything? Let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Which takes us to item 9.6, the Plan of Management, generic. So this is pursuant to the Local Government Act, council-owned land and land managed by council that's classified as community land must have a plan of management. So this plan has been developed to provide necessary guidelines for facilities such as parks, sports grounds and bushland. Details are page 51 of the agenda and 462 of the attachments. There's a recommendation on the screen to progress this item. Do I have a mover? Thanks, Councillor McMichael, and Councillor Gadders can be the seconder. Councillor McMichael, anything to add?
No, just thanks to the staff, because the Crown Land Act has a lot of forms to fill in, and I appreciate all the work they've done.
Thank you. Councillor Gadders? Okay. Any councillors wish to speak? Do it. All right, let's put it to a vote.
I'd just like to thank Project Officer Grob for this well put together thing. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for sneaking that in. All right, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 9.7, compulsory acquisition to obtain access to the Grafton Road waste facility. So this is seeking council's endorsement to do all things necessary to compulsorily acquire lots to enable legal access to the Grafton Road waste facility from Grafton Road. We have details from page 54 of the agenda and 1,178 of the attachments. So there is a recommendation on the screen there. Do I have a mover for that? Please. Thanks, Councillor Galletley, seconded by Councillor Gadders. Anything to say, Councillor Galletley?
No, this is just a very wise move to let them get access to their solar plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gadders? All right. Anyone wish to say anything or congratulate a member of staff?
Yeah. Two things. Just back to my old, last time I spoke, it was 10.21 if you're looking for it.
10.21.
Again, I have mentioned that my attachments didn't load here, so I didn't get a chance to have a look at the Part C in regards to this. Just through you to the General Manager, just a bit of an update on that. For my clarification, that was with Armidale Land Council that has put that land claim in.
I would.
Is it in the attachments?
I'd have to take that on notice, Councillor, because I don't have an answer to hand.
Okay. Yeah, because I just didn't know whether I had to, because I don't know who's put in the land claim, because I didn't get the attachments. So I don't know whether. So I'm just going to assume that that was, from what I know, the Armidale Land Council. But if there is a conflict later on that comes up, just so I mentioned it.
Thank you. Councillor Widders, I'd just draw your attention to 10.23. I suggest you read that in the Code of Meeting Practice as well. Thank you. Which overrides 10.21. Okay, back to your question there that you had to the General Manager, Councillor Widders. You satisfied? Yep, thank you. All right, councillors, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour of accepting this? That's Councillors Redwood and O'Connor. Are you... Sorry, Redwood, Widders and O'Connor. Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Councillors, item 9.8, property addressing and naming roads and places policy. There's actually two things in here. There's places and policy. So this particular register is 28 years old and has been updated to remove duplicates and similar names, update with ratified new name submissions and recognise and include names from the former Guyra Shire. So following, and this was an extensive period of public exhibition, it nudged 1 year. So following that extensive period of public exhibition, the recommendation is Council receive and endorse submissions and adopt the relevant policies and register. So the details on page 59 of the agenda and 1179 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover for this? Thanks, Councillor McMichael. A seconder. Thanks, Councillor Widders. Councillor McMichael.
Look, I come from Canberra and lived in Red Hill, and all the streets in Red Hill were named after ships in the First Fleet. And had I lived in another suburb, there would have been different things. I think it's really important to think about where we come from and why we name places and streets. And I'm pleased that we have the choices that we've got, the three ones that we've got. It would be nice if the community had a way of suggesting other names, other places for another way, maybe a lottery or a pin the name on the board during the year. I mean, this was an extensive consultation, as the Mayor said, it was a year. But look, yeah, think about why we have our streets and why we have our names. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Right, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously, and a shout out to the officers that put that together. Kylie Steele in particular. All right, item 9.9, outcome of the public exhibition of East Mall. So this report provides a summary of the feedback received from the public exhibition, and it sets out a pathway forward. Details around this on page 63 of the agenda and 1,201 of the attachments. There's a recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Robinson, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Robinson, anything
This
to
is
say?
eminently sensible. Let's get on with it.
Very succinct. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Gadders.
I don't think I can top that, Mr. Mayor. Let me try. Obviously, thank you very much. This was, I feel, a very good path taken with the community that are very, very close to this area. They either operate there, have land there, they have some sort of function of operation there. It also involved other community members. I guess what I'm trying to put the words back in my mouth to say, I think this was a very good process, and I think it was clean. And if many of our projects could proceed this way in the future, I think that gives very good community consultation and an outcome that says once we find some dollars, we've got a really great outcome for the town here. So thank you to all involved.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Witters.
Yeah, I'm going to have to have a different opinion on the process of this in regards to Councillor Gaddis, but I'm glad we got to where we are at the moment. But I think that this, in the end, I had a few concerns, and I want to thank Mr. Boyce and also Mr. Dick at the back for taking some time to go and chat to the Access Advisory Committee. That was one of my concerns. They hadn't been consulted and they were given a chance to have a bit of a look at these things and all that sort of stuff. So I really do appreciate that. From memory, attending the last workshop, had a few issues around how the numbers were presented. But look, the main thing is something's happening in that East Mall. I like the idea from what I received down there that it's sort of like trying to make an active sort of precinct, an area where people are drawn to. I think that's a really good idea. This idea of services now being what's going to fill that area. Your brick and mortar shops aren't going to draw people down there anymore with online shopping. So this idea of services bringing people down, I think is a really good idea, and anything to improve on the patronage in that part of the town is good.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Councillor Packham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too agree as a CBD trader that the revitalisation of this whole precinct, and of which East Mall plays an integral part, is important to move us forward. I do remain concerned about letter D, the 60-degree nose-to-curb parking that's seemingly adopted as part of a preferred option, as opposed to the what was labelled the alternate option in terms of access and equity. And I note that Councillor Witter said that the Access Equity Committee was briefed. I understand that they had different concerns amongst themselves, which is great because that brings to the fore people's concerns. I still have concerns about parents with children, the elderly, etc., and accessing through 60-degree nose-to-curb. The West End Mall has been in place for a long time now. I think it looks good. I think it works well, and has proven that parallel parking on either side is actually is supported. Finding parks, the ease to be able to get into those parks is there. it'd be great to see, I mean, from a town planning perspective, continuity, a bit of standardisation, a bit of knowing what to expect. You know, we could have pretty much duplicated that. That option is actually what the designer believes. The alternate option is the one that person actually believes is the better design, but he listened to the groups and listened to the people that were able to engage with them. So I think there's a bit of sensibility. I think there's still some issues around having one level. It'll only take one vehicle out of control by its operator to bulldoze some people sitting in cafes and that on the street. And unless we intend to install a bunch of bollards or tree planters that are going to stop that, I do have that genuine concern that the curbing in the West End Mall of Beatty Street actually has a function. The curb actually has a function and allows people to get out of their vehicles and get prams and walkers and things like that as well, as I mentioned before about access and equity. So, you know, like I said, as written, I think I still have concerns about D, but I'm willing to support a project that revitalises the CBD.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, as this was part of Councillor Gallettley and my Keep Pillar working group, we were fortunate enough to be able to see the whole process, as the other councillors who joined in were, and to see the level of excellent communication and the listening to the various people there with their enormously different ideas and how well that was handled, and thinking too the enormous controversy that any of this have had in the past, and that poor consultation group having to come to town again after being run out of town practically last time. It ended up working extraordinarily well, and the staff's capacity and ability to take on board all the various things and put together in a really well-planned and amiable
Close.
happy
Amiable.
way was really excellent. I just want to, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien.
They were a pleasure to work with. They really were. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, councillors, with if there's nothing else to add, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 9.10, the granting of an easement for right of carriageway. So the report is seeking council endorsement to enter into a negotiation with Oxley Solar Farm regarding access from council land to their adjoining lot, them being Oxley Solar Farm. So details from page 69 of the agenda and 1,324 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks to Councillor Gallettley. The seconder can be Councillor Robinson. Councillor Gallettley.
Thank you. I was a little bit early coming in on the waste, so thank you, Councillor Geddes, for pulling me up on that one. Which is actually it's the same hole we're driving through, but it's a different bit. This is actually is where they're going to get to the Gera Solar Farm out there, and yes, it's the only way to go. It's a bit of a win-win situation because we don't have to start putting a new entry anywhere along the Grafton Road there. We've got a very good entry there, and a very good decision. And I'd like to thank Officer Annabelle Walsh for putting this together very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallettley. All right, councillors, anyone? We had Councillor Robinson, you seconded that?
Yep, it's a good idea.
Thank you. Councillors, anyone else wish to speak to this? All right, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, item 9.11 is public exhibition of the Brilliant Regions strategy. So the report seeking the endorsement to place this on public exhibition and receive a further report after the exhibition period. The details are on page 27 of the agenda and 1,364 of the attachments. A recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Gadders, and a seconder. Councillor Redwood won that one. Sorry, I've moved, but Councillor O'Connor, do you have?
Look, I'm just concerned. This is a very, very important strategy. I did have my light on, but obviously my hand was too slow for you to see me yet again. Nevertheless, I just wonder, is it possible for us to extend the exhibition period to 42 days or something, a little bit longer than what we currently have, because we've got so much on public exhibition. There's a lot to take in with this one. It's kind of fairly global in terms of its impact on the whole of our LSPS and also our community strategic plan advancing our region. So I don't know if the movers would be happy with that.
Well, it's up to the mover.
Thank you. If I could put a question through the General Manager to Lillian, who prepared the report, just to make sure there's no deadlines or anything. Yep. All right. Yep. Happy to extend. Pick a number. 42. The answer to life, the universe and everything. Yeah. All right.
And Councillor Redwood, as the seconder, are you happy with that?
Delighted, Mr Mayor.
That's terrific. Delighted. All righty. Well, on that cheerful and together note, Councillor Gadders, would you like to speak more to this?
Thank you. I guess one of the reasons I'm very happy to move this as a self-professed technology geek. So, look, I'm pretty excited about this strategy. And absolutely look forward to the future for Armidale Regional Council, so I'm in full support of it. There's a lot of detail in the meeting papers and the attachments, so granted an extra couple of days for people to look at that to get the full picture would be great. I encourage people to take a look and provide the feedback as usual as things are on exhibition. But for those without the opportunity, maybe I can paraphrase or simplify what the Brilliant Region strategy is all about. So it's taking digital technology and transforming that into digital capabilities for the benefit of the community. Now, I know I just geek spoke right there. So let me simplify that even further. It's about using technology to collect data, analysing the data to give us some insights, then allowing us as a council and a community to find more efficiencies in the process and the operations that we do on a day-to-day basis. So ultimately, this is going to lead to ARC being able in the future to set up for more proactive citizen services that we're going to be able to provide back to the community. That's the outcome here. So having lived and worked in many, many smart cities across the world and had spent 20 years in what is now considered for the last 5 years of life, Singapore to be the smartest city in the world, I really look forward to this Brilliant Region strategy coming to fruition with quite a few new innovations out there. It'll make our lives a lot more productive as individual citizens, and we get on with our lifestyle and our living. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Redwood.
Yeah, thanks. What he said, and no, it's a terrific idea, and I congratulate our region on advancing towards this, because the reality is, as Councillor Gadders said, many large cities around the world are moving into this space. Many large cities that are much better resourced than we are to do this. But the fact that we have made a commitment to it and that we are, carrying forward, is testament to our ability to, to grow up and to move forward in an advancing world. And the information that's going to be available to us will make us much better decision makers and make the quality of life and the services received by our community much more valuable. So congratulations, and I fully support it.
Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Robinson.
Yes, I mean, this is an interesting strategy, and I'm all for digital, guiding our actions by digital information. But it's also something where we really do need to try and speed up the process sometimes. And one interesting example is our smart water meters, whereby we've been talking about them since before this council was even elected. And we've now managed to install 50 smart water meters. Over the same period of time, Tamworth Council's installed smart water meters on for every single water user, and probably they'll be saving the 15% of water that we were planning. So let's get on with it. Let's be guided by the strategy, and let's also put it into practice.
Thanks very much, Councillor Robinson and Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you. I know how exciting this is for Councillor Geddes, because the first conversation I had with him was all about this, and yeah, so you must be happy. I just also say what I usually say, I guess, and I hope that there's a social justice lens put on this to make sure that the benefits are spread throughout the community. I've been involved with a few projects before, say with smart lighting, when it was quite, we had to fight to make sure that it was put where it was most needed. So, and I'm sure that the staff are aware of this, but just to request that everyone benefits as much as possible from this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor O'Brien. All right, if there's no one else who wishes to speak to this, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour of adopting the Brilliant Region strategy? Thank you. Sorry, thank you, Councillor O'Connor, that you are correct. Putting it on public exhibition for 42 days and then receiving a further report once the submissions have been received. Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, we come now to item 12.1, which was a notice of motion put forward by Councillor Robinson in relation to the reported system on the council website. So there's some details there on page 77. So I'll call on Councillor Robinson to move this and provide context.
Well, I'd like to postpone it, or I'll withdraw it until and resubmit it, because there was a problem in the sense that I was assured that this was related to the new website, and now I understand it's relating to the e-pathway options. Therefore, I would like to review or maybe even sort of at some point maybe have a quick discussion with the consultant to find out how we can work the e-pathway stuff into the new website and get something that's completely brilliant, that will definitely improve quality of life for all residents who note defects in them and note issues and problems, and give our residents something to be proud of.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robinson. I think we all look forward to the resubmitted notice of motion down the track. Councillors, we come now to, we have two committee reports, one from the Traffic Advisory Committee and one from the Access Advisory Committee. So the Traffic Advisory Committee, we're looking at the minutes, asked to note the minutes of the 7th of May, the meeting that was had there. Call for a mover, Councillor McMichael, and a seconder, Councillor Widders. Councillor McMichael, what would you like to say? A couple of things on the agenda.
Yes, we've had some fantastic events over the last few weeks, and the Traffic Committee has been delighted to approve them. One of the events was Big Chill, which was muddy but awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Widders.
Yeah, I think the support within the community for the Big Chill is fairly well known. So well done on that. And I look forward to seeing the Traffic Committee minutes next month, where it says that the timing of the Northfield lights has been improved.
Oh, it's back after 12 months. Right, thank you. All right, all those in favour of noting those minutes, Councillors Widders and McMichael, thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. The next item, 13.2, Access Advisory Committee, minutes of the meeting on the 2nd of May. There are a number of councillors attended that, but can I have a mover for...
Mr Mayor, if you don't mind, the item says Armidale Regional Council Advisory Committee. I know it's only a small thing, but it should be Council Access Advisory Committee.
It should be.
Just for clarification of the...
Thank you, Councillor Packham. I noted that when I was preparing my notes, but thank you. All right, could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Redwood, do you wish to speak to this? Councillor O'Brien, I assume you were at the meeting? No, not? Okay. All right, if
I just note that we endorse the renaming of the Access Award to the Steve Austin Accessibility Award, and that'd be great. That'll be great.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Councillor Witters.
Yeah, it's the second time that'll come up. I think I tried to do that in June last year, but a bit of a process issue. So it's good to see that that's now up and will get done. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, councillors, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour of noting those minutes? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Councillors, that brings us to the end of the open session. Can I have a motion to move into closed session? If passed, I'll ask the gallery to leave this while we go into closed session. Councillor O'Brien is moving it. Councillor Gadd has seconded it. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you. Councillors, I welcome everyone back into the open session, and I ask the General Manager to read out the resolutions of the closed session.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 5 items in closed session. Item 10.1, rental subsidy to the alternate route at the Armidale Airport. Resolved by Council that the Council approve the payment of a subsidy to the owners of alternate route under the following terms. A, the subsidy will commence at $4,333.33 per month and taper off as sales improve. B, the alternate route will provide sales information on a monthly basis throughout the subsidy period to inform the level of ongoing subsidy. C, the subsidy can only be used for the benefit of the cafe business situated within the Armidale Airport. And D, the subsidy will run for a period of no more than 8 months, at which time it will be reviewed and brought back to Council for further consideration. Item 15.1, heavy patching contract award to ARC Locations 2022 to 2025. Resolved by Council that A, note previous resolutions regarding the heavy patching tender of ordinary council meetings of 22 December 2022 and 26 April 2023, reflecting the engagement of Roadwork Industries and Stable Corp Proprietary Limited. B, delegate authority to the General Manager to approve expenditure for the project and contractor up to $1.4 million GST exclusive per financial year for the remaining tender period until 30 June 2025. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all documents in relation to the contract and to delegate contract and financial management, including requests for variation within Council accordingly. Item 15.2, Consultancy Panel Assets and Services Provision of Professional Engineering and Project Management Services Panel. Resolved by Council that A, appoint the tender as listed under each category and subcategory as per Annexure 2 in the attached tender and evaluation report to the Professional Engineering and Project Management Services Panel contract for the period 1 May 2024 to 30 June 2026. B, endorses the General Manager to provision for a 2-by-2 year extension options based on satisfactory supplier performance, which may take this contract through to 30 June 2028 and then 30 June 2030 at the sole discretion of Council. C, endorses the General Manager to authorise additions to the panel allowing, depending on the outcomes and recommendations of any annual onboarding process, by a public notice undertaken by Council if it decides that further benefit would be delivered to a certain skill set of consultancy or further expertise or depth was needed in future scenarios, as stipulated in the original EOI documentation. And D, endorses the General Manager to authorise expenditure up to the approved project budget for engagements under this panel contract. Item 15.3, Kempsey Armidale Road Restoration Project Procurement Strategy and Contract Variations. Resolved by Council that endorse the procurement strategy for the continued engagement of GHD Proprietary Limited, GeoLink Proprietary Limited, Clayton Hoots Proprietary Limited, Prevention Partners Proprietary Limited, TSA Advisory Proprietary Limited and New England Surveying and Engineering Proprietary Limited to deliver support services to the Kempsey Armidale Road Restoration Project. B, endorse an exemption to undertake public tender under Section 55(3)(1) of the Local Government Act 1993 due to extenuating circumstances, the contractors who possess intellectual property that place Council at risk if the service is not continuous. A satisfactory result would not be achieved by inviting tenders. C, endorse the variation of Contract A 2022/70 with RB Osling and Associates to include additional project resource for Council. D, delegate authority to the General Manager to approve expenditure to the upper limit of available funding for the works. And E, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all documentation in relation to the contracts. And item 15.4, Sale Yards Direct Negotiations Recommendations from New South Wales Public Works. Resolved by Council that A, note the New South Wales Public Works outcomes following the direct negotiations with Shea Brennan Construction Proprietary Limited for the Guyra and Armidale Sale Yard upgrades, which includes a lump sum tender amount from Shea Brennan Constructions Proprietary Limited. B, note the New South Wales Public Works outcomes following the direct negotiations with Shea Brennan Constructions Proprietary Limited for the Guyra and Armidale Sale Yard upgrade for the prices received for optional additional works and that optional additional works proceed if funds become available. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to sign all documentation and to do all things necessary to give effect to Resolution 3824 of 28 February 2024. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. That was extreme. All right, councillors, with no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 6:47 p.m. Thank you.